Hi, welcome to Decluttering Delight for Life. Hi, I'm Andrea, CEO and co-founder of Decluttering Delight for Life. I am the sensible lady. I put the sensible and sensible and help you declutter the clutter in your life. I just want to present to you an offer that if you want to email us or send us a messenger with your email, we'll send you free decluttering tips, which will be a great help for you, I know. And all you have to do is send it to ddflrocks at gmail.com. And we would definitely welcome you and send you those free decluttering tips and which will help you along in your life and, make things better. And we got some other great stuff coming out for you within the next week or so. And you'll love those too. Because I know you love me because I love you. And I think that's a great thing. And like I said, when one person likes another, that's a great thing because it helps folks get along much better. And one thing I do know, those who complain don't get anywhere. And I know a lot of you guys out there probably don't complain, but you like to have a life. And having a life is a great thing. And one thing I do realize too is having a backup plan. And yeah, that's part of decluttering too, is learning to have a backup plan in life. Like when something isn't necessarily, when you got a problem or whatever you're dealing with, that you've got something besides, what you're facing, that you come up with a separate solution. Well, how did this all relate to the circle of decluttering? Well, how many of us get caught up in knots in our life? I know myself, I get caught up in knots. I get caught up in knots sometimes. I used to argue with folks. I used to complain. I used to, make my life difficult because, I would think bad things of folks. I would do all sorts of negative things. Inside, it would just tie me up in knots. I would feel horrible. It would make me feel like I was like a sinking ship, you know, kind of like the Titanic. It took time for it all to happen. And then I sunk. I went into depressions and suicide attempts and all sorts of crazy things. You know what? I don't want to be a sinking Titanic. I don't think you two either. Because tying yourself up in knots in life, whatever those those knots can be financial messes. Knots can be financial relationship issues. Financial knots can be, issues with school or marriages or all sorts of things. Knots in life can be knots on your head physically, and those can hurt quite a bit. But do we have to live that way? I don't think so. I think there are better ways to have things happen in life that are much better because when you're tied up in knots, one thing I do know is that you can have a much better life when you realize what your knots are in life. And when you realize what your knots are, you are able to do something about those knots. And what I want to bring to you is ways that you can undo those knots in life. And what I want you to see clearly, and that includes me in life, is that when you deal with your knots in life, that you're able to move forward in life. And with that, let's figure out how we can untie your knots in life. if you want to do that. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So let's get on board with it. So, untying knots. Let's say untying knots can be learning to communicate better with those you care about and realize that arguing and bickering and everything else are complaining. I like to keep things simple and to keep things under one roof. Is that when you realize what those negative things are, you're untying those knots. You coming up different ways for things to happen. You are realizing that no matter what, that there are solutions out there. Sometimes we don't see them. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. What I always like to think, there are possibilities. There are opportunities because you know what? We create our own opportunities in life. And that's untying knots when we create our opportunities in life. Opportunities are those things that no matter what, think about that. No matter what, you know, when you think of no matter what do you think of? No matter what, that nothing will happen. No matter what, that things won't happen. Well, I'm here to tell you that things do change. I know my life is changing. I've had something very positive happen today that's helping me financially. It's simple, but it's helping me and it's making my life a little bit easier. I opened my eyes to possibilities and fortune smiled on me. And when you open yourself up to opportunities, you what you think is good fortune a lot of times actually is hard work that you've been able to put out there. And you're creating opportunities for yourself where there was no opportunities before. And when you can do that, you are definitely untying knots. And what does this all do with the circle of decluttering? Well, the circle of decluttering is when you're in a circle, you're not tied in a knot at all. A circle of recovery and decluttering is a circle. And when you have a circle in life, life is balanced. It is, it keeps going around and around and around, but it all stays the same. And you're able to handle life much better. And as far as I'm concerned, when life is going around you in a constant, you don't have knots, because if you have knots, you don't have no circle. And I like that kind of thing because I like the idea of a circle because it reminds me of the circle of life. And the circle of life is a beautiful thing because life is a circle. We have cycles in life. We have cycles in nature. We have cycles in our life from birth to death. I know I don't want to sound negative at all, but what I'm trying to say is that there are circles out there all over the place that are positive, and that when we look at those circles and realize how important they are in our life, they create opportunities where you never saw them before. There are cycles that when you go to school, there's cycles when you get married, there's cycles when you have kids and they grow up, and you have possibly an empty nest syndrome. But, those are all part of the circle. They're all part of the circle of life. And when we go through the circle of life and realize that, things can change, and they do, and everything changes in life. But when we have that circle of life, we have stability. And when you got that stability in that circle and certain things going on in your life, then you are having things happen that you may never have happened before. And what I would like you to see, that when you have that circle, you have a neat and tidy life, and life is a lot more organized and a lot more centered, and is able to be more what you ever wanted it to be. And I just want you to see these facts, that when we all see these facts, life is much simpler, and life itself that is much simpler is easier to manage, and it definitely has no knots in it. And we definitely have that circle that allows us to live a better life, and living a better life is so much better. And you know what? I like that. I hope you like that too, because if we all have that circle, and we each have our own circle, and yes, each of our own circles are going to be different, we can look at the world in a much more positive way, and life is not so difficult. Because have you ever tried untying a knot in your shoes? Well, sometimes you can never get the knot out. And I don't think you want that in your life at all, as far as I'm concerned. And when you can do that, untie that knot, whether it be in your shoe or in your life, life is much simpler. And I want you to see that. And with that, I wish you a great declutter's delight for life. Have peace and tranquility, and hope and love, and joy and laughter, and peace and love, and let there be a light in your eyes like there never was. And I'll see you back here again tomorrow night. And as again, we have that special offer. If you send us your email us at ddflrocks@gmail.com, or you messenger me with your email. I'll get those decluttering tips right out to you, and I know you will enjoy them. And with that, you have a great one.